This is the final word World Cup daily day. I think I said it was day 6 yesterday, but it's day 6 today. It's day 6.5 today. Jeff Lemon, Stephen Finn, joining the show as a co-host for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
The show's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. We're hanging around outside Queen's Park Oval in Bridgetown. You can, if you're watching the video, you can see some people wandering out of the ground afterwards. Kids are here, the cops are here. Most importantly, Stephen, can you tell me about the game today in the space of 30 seconds?
I'd like to think so, yeah. Namibia won the toss, batted first. They scored 155. Their captain, Gerhard Erasmus, scored a good 52 to propel them to that total. At the halfway stage, I thought that they had done a good job and that it was defendable, and that looked as though it was the case up until around the 13th over, when the captain, Richie Berrington, and Michael Leese decided to go bananas, whack a lot of sixes, win Scotland the game after 18.3 overs, and that induced a lap of honour from the Scots.
That's pretty much bang on. I reckon that's 30. That might be 30 on the dot. Well,
there we go.
Some people time it back, so they'll tell you how you went.
Okay.
It was an odd sort of game because it felt like it was close. It felt like Scotland were trailing with about 5 overs to go, and then they won it comfortably with an over and a half in hand.
Well, I thought they were up against it, to be honest. I thought that Namibia had learnt the lessons from the Scots in the first innings with a few of the big overs that they had, and I thought that their senior players would be able to implement that when they were bowling, but clearly the pressure and the magnitude of the game might have got the better of the Namibian players there towards the back end of the innings, and the Scots, as they did do against England, they looked really composed. It sort of looked like they were floundering a bit through those middle overs, but they composed themselves. The captain stuck in, he was supported by Leese, and yeah, they look like they've got a really good team spirit.
It was interesting kind of the whole way through because you were never quite sure. You're not quite sure what's a good score here. We saw Australia sort of struggle for a while and eventually make 160 last night. We saw 109 for the tie in the first game here. And then the way they were starting off today, Namibia choose to bat, saying that it'd be easier to defend in the daytime. They lose a wicket early though. They've got Coetzer out to wheel in the first over. Curry picks up a wicket early as well. And then you've got Nicholas Davin, who smacks 20 in quick time but then gets out. They're 4 for about 50 and you're feeling like they're in trouble. And that's where Gerhard Erasmus, which is one of the most satisfying names to say in the cricketing world, comes out and goes, time for a trademark captain's knock.
He played very well, didn't he? I wonder actually, in hindsight, if maybe they misread the conditions because it was a 3 o'clock start, not a 1 o'clock start here. It meant that the shadows did come over around the 12th or 13th over, so the whole ground was encompassed by shadows, and it's bizarre what that can do. The lights would have come on as well at that stage, which can just make the ball skip on that little bit more, and some of the shots that were played by the Scots did suggest that wicket in those last 5 or 6 overs did just get a little bit more even paced and truer to just hit through the line of, and they were big hits that they were hitting there off good length deliveries. So yeah, maybe the 3 o'clock start and then it's sort of descending into darkness counted against Namibia in the end.
Yeah, so they go. So Erasmus gets them up past 100. Then he's out. You have Wiese batting with Zane Green, who really struggled for a long time to get anywhere. Hit a 6 before he hit a 4, Green, but it took him a long time before he hit that first one over the road.
Yeah, and it was curious why, with JJ Smith and Wiese in your ranks, that you would send Zane Green up there. I mean, nothing that I've seen has suggested that he's a more competent batter than either of those two. So yeah, in trying to post a challenging score, maybe again Namibia a tactical misstep from them for not sending their 2 more experienced players in ahead of him to just try and bat for a longer period of time. That's part of the reason why Jos Buttler got moved to the top of the order for England, was so that he could face 120 balls if that was ever possible.
Right.
So maybe the same logic should have applied for those 2 senior players for Namibia.
So a few wickets fall towards the back end. Wheel ends up with 3 for 33, 2 for 16. For Curry, they've got Namibia 9 down by the close, but 155 felt pretty imposing. And then Scotland, just a funny old start because they were so dynamic, their openers against England the other day. And then the opposite of that today, they were struggling to get anything going. There was some disciplined lines bowled by Namibia. They were pretty sharp, aside from Ruben Trumpelman, who was really struggling.
Yeah, Trumpelman sprayed it about a bit. I think he suffered from maybe just trying a bit too hard to try and take or make impact in those first couple of overs that he bowled. But I thought on the whole, Namibia bowled well to those 2 openers. They starved Jones of the strike and they hung it outside offside off stump to Munsey, which you would usually associate with Test cricket. Don't and not to hang it outside the off stump to someone in T20 because they can just free their arms and whack it. But Munsey's style means that he really struggles to hit the ball through the offside, even though all the field was out there. So they'd clearly done their homework, they executed it really well, and at the end of that power play, even though there was a big over in the sixth, you still felt as though Namibia were ahead of the game.
7 off 15 by the time Munsey gets out. Lungamani gets him getting frustrated, trying to smash one over mid-off, can't clear it. David Visa comes in and takes a good catch going forward. Brandon McMullen bats relatively slowly. He's eventually stumped. God, that was a weird stumping. It was Erasmus with his spin bowling, and McMullen's, he's got his foot over the line. It's just in the air. He just didn't bother to put it down.
Yeah, I think you can become a bit discombobulated with where your feet are, sort of when you're spinning around and trying to whack the ball. So yeah, I think he probably thought he was further inside his crease than he was, but clearly that heel being lifted without it being grounded before meant that he was out and had to go.
So 3 for 67 at about the halfway mark. They look like they're in some strife there. Then Matthew Cross gets out LBW to Schultz, and it continues to drift for a while. They needed 45, 46 off the last 5 overs. And that's that point that you're talking about where it looks like they're in some trouble. But then, well, it's Leask who starts hitting him second, right? Barrington, the captain, hits a 6 and a 4. It just feels like that flushes out the works a little bit. And then Leask goes a monster over one side, a couple from the other end, big hits going that way, and then a 4th 6 into the original stand going. I'm thinking, in my mind, it's just left to right because I can't remember what's east to west and where we are. But it was dynamic hitting, and he was hitting the faster bowlers. They took down Wiese. To that point, he bowled 2 overs and conceded about 3 runs, and then he goes for 18 off his 3rd over. Low full toss to finish it and gets punished over the leg side for 6. Schrumpelman gets belted for a 6 off a length. Leask is hitting the quicks off a length square of the wicket. It's challenging to do, and especially on this pitch where nobody could time the ball on this surface. Nobody in all the games we've seen here has timed the ball, and yet for about 5 minutes, Leask is the man who can do it.
Yep, he wanted no 4s and 4 6s. That's my kind of innings. I like that style of batting. He played very well, and he gave that impetus. I think Barrington was there, and he knew he had to be the rock and the anchor, with the odd aggressive stroke in there towards the end, but fundamentally.
Everything's falling apart here. We're very smooth.
It's a smooth operation we got running here, but it was that 6 hitting from Leask that really just put the knife into Namibia and meant that there was no way back, and it ended up with Scotland actually peeling that score in with 9 balls to go, which would be very handy for their net run rate.
All right, we're going to take a quick break on this smooth operation while I find the other bit that I need, which will come up after the break. Here we go. It's a final word. Smooth operation continues. For Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City, this is a very relevant question to you, Stephen. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face Jofra Archer, Mitchell Starc or Ravindra Jadeja? Well, you faced at least 2 of them, to my knowledge.
I faced all 3, yeah. I've hit Jadeja for a 6 up over his head over long on at, I think it was Hyderabad, actually. Yeah, that was a pleasant moment in my career.
Well, you probably don't need to go to 6s at Westfield London without needing to be afraid of getting hurt by the ball. Well, although by your stories you were usually still afraid of being hurt by the ball.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, both Starc and Jofra Archer did make me shit my pants a little bit, to be quite frank with you. Yeah, so I don't wish to relive those memories, so I might stay away.
Well, you can go if you want to do it more safely. To celebrate the T20 World Cup, 6s have launched their brand new World Cup mode, where you can face some of the most famous deliveries bowled over the history of the T20 World Cup and see if you survive and thrive. Can you be like Stephen Finn and hit Jadeja for a 6? Maybe you can equal Yuvraj Singh's 6 6s off and over from Stuart Broad, perhaps. All right, final word, Hall of Fame. I didn't prep you for this, so we're just going to see what we come up with. I think you were particularly amused, if I can nominate one for you, by the full lap of honour that we got for the Scots team after beating Namibia today.
It was an interesting game of cricket. I mean, from a boring bowling perspective, if you want me to be cricket-based...
You can be. You can be whatever you want. You can be cricket, you can be not cricket.
I enjoyed, from a nuffy perspective, how Namibia had done their homework on Munsey and hung it outside the off-stump and forced the wicket. And it's nice to see a plan come to fruition as a bowler, because in T20 cricket, you don't always have the odds in your favour, so I enjoyed that.
Right. I enjoyed how much we picked ahead of time what was going to happen with the ground DJ. We said as soon as it rains they'll play Umbrella, because Barbados, Rihanna, they definitely play Proclaimers in about 5 minutes time. Sure enough,
Yep.
all of those things transpired. But I think my favourite moment of the day was all of us trying to commentate this game while also watching the USA-Pakistan game
Yeah.
on a different screen and commentating them both, while Chris, our producer, was telling us, I was like, call this game.
Yes.
And you were like, sure, fine. But also, we're going to a super over.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that one. I think I actually ball-by-balled one ball from the Pakistan game, and he came. He was like, "Don't do that." So, okay, I value my job and I value my time with the BBC, so I won't do it again.
All right, we'll be trying to behave ourselves. We've got Australia-England coming up here in Barbados in a couple of days. Something else tomorrow. There's only one game tomorrow. I think it's a quiet game tomorrow. But the USA did beat Pakistan, so watch Adam's episode from New York where he was shooting that earlier today. That's it. That's the final word. World Cup Daily, day 6.5. The real 6.5, not the one yesterday that I said it was when it wasn't. Stephen Finn, thanks for joining us. We'll see all of you next time.
Pleasure.